Strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon. That is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. This is a message that probably needs to be propagated a little bit more if you look at the top cut of any recent tournament. I mean, look at this. How many teams is that? 6 out of 8 top 8 teams are using Flutter Mane. 6 out of 8 of those teams are also using Urshifu. What are the odds that those 8 people, that they just happen to really love Flutter Mane and Urshifu that much, right? That's not the spirit of the game. That's not what the wise Elite Four of Johto and Kanto are trying to tell us to do. This is unacceptable. Our game has devolved into a hyper-optimized state that I don't know if we can ever get back from. I mean, just look at this. This is from the World Championship in 2024. There's 3 Mons from Area 0. Do you think this dude grew up in Area 0? Why does he have all these Mons from there? There's no way these are all his favorites. There's also 3 Legendaries. He's clearly hacking. And the last Mon on his team, the only one that doesn't fall into one of these sus categories is Whimsicott, which is, as everybody knows, a truly degenerate Mon. Thankfully, Game Freak heard us and has gifted us Regulation H for the rest of this year, and is giving us a chance to play with a different set of Pokemon as long as your Pokemon that you want to play with are on this list. So it might not ever be entirely possible to play a game truly with just your favorites and have any success at it. I mean, just look at this. We're using our favorites. I'm getting cooked here every time. But, you know, at the very least, this format did remove all Paradox Pokemon and all Legendary Pokemon, so we're finally safe from the Iron Thorns Virizion combo that was terrorizing the meta, all last year. With this new format defined for us, we have to take a look at some of the significant changes to the draft board that are needed because of a lack of these synergies, right? We don't have Chi-Yu, we don't have a single Paradox Pokemon, so Sun's not doing as hot as it used to, and maybe some other things have gone up, some have gone down. There's a lot of moves and roles on teams that aren't available anymore, so we had to take a look and change our drafting board accordingly. And on top of this, I just had my brain irreversibly altered by playing in our first ever low tier season, which was a huge hit, massive success, everybody loved it. So I gotta recalibrate myself, because low tier is a hell of a drug. Look at these sets that I had. Steel Beam Tinkatuff, the Hurricane Tailwind Whirlwind, Sheer Force Special Attack and Braviary. People should never be uttering these words on this screen. It's the sign of a deranged, degenerate format. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to announce Season 14 of the VBLS is finally here. To kind of reorient ourselves, get ourselves in the right mindset of figuring out what's good, what's bad, what's more important than it was last season. Let's take a look at the format, analyze what's different and what stayed the same. So starting off, we're going to look at the type Pareto. This is the count of fully evolved Mons of each of the individual types. We see here Water's at the top. That's not surprising. Ice is at the bottom. That's also not surprising. This basically just mimics the distribution of types as a whole. I have most of the not fully evolved Pokemon cut off on here, but that pretty much affects every type equally. I'm sure some are hit more than others, but all in all, it stays roughly the same. So, Water, Grass, Normal, Fire, pretty popular. And then we have a pretty even distribution once you get to around Ground, and then Ice drops off a little bit, but it's really the big 3, maybe even big 5, Normal, Grass, Water, Fire, Flying, that are the most common here. But it doesn't just matter how common they are now, we want to see how common they were last season. So what this chart is, this is a variability chart showing the percentage that each of these types made up compared to this format and last format. Red is last season, purple is this season, so you can see some have gone up, some have gone down. You see here, Ghost has gone up pretty significantly, Water has dropped pretty significantly, but what's really interesting here is we take a look at the percent relative changes of all these types. So this is just the percentage change that each of these types have had from last season to this season. Like I said earlier, Ghost has gone up, but when you see how low Ghost started from last season, it's actually gone up pretty significantly. There's 25% more Ghosts than there were last season, and Ground has been hit the hardest, about 14% less Ground types than there were last season as well. But we also got to take a look at the typing date breakdown. What's good, what's not? Well, not too surprisingly, Steel is pretty damn good. The most optimal defensive typing in this format is Flying Steel, which barely edges out Dragon Steel for the crown from last season. Ground and Ice is still up there as number 1, go figure. And then overall, Flying Steel is still the best, which I think was the same as last season too. If we look at the average attacking stats here, they're about the same as we've seen in some seasons past. 83 is the mean for the average attack stat, and 80 is the average for special attackers. And then for effective defense and effective special defense, if you're not familiar with these terms, this is essentially combining the HP and defense stats into one number. So don't worry about the specific number, but basically Clefable is on average as bulky as a given Mon is going to be in this format for physical defense, and then for special defense, Golduck has about the average value there. And lastly, for speed, 76 is the average for speed, so good old Blastoise is smack dab right in the middle. Given what we've learned, what do we have? What do we not have? There's a lot more ghosts, there's not as many ground types, and it's harder on average to find a good special attacker. So, given all those pieces of information, I went ahead and picked my first round pick, Ursaluna. Well, that's not really Ursaluna. So I was originally going to pick Blood Moon Ursaluna for my first pick, but that went before me. Makes sense. It's one of the best mons in the format. So I had to go reevaluate my draft plan, look at things, see what was on the board, consider the statistics and facts and figures that we talked about earlier, and I realized that this thing, Archaludon for 20 points, is a hell of a mon. This thing is unbelievably powerful. With attack stat and the upper echelons, honestly for physical and special attack is both pretty good. It has out of this planet defense. Its special defense is a bit lacking, obviously, but you know, it can't be perfect. But what it really has is just the ultimate late game inevitability, which is what I really like to have on a team. Whether it be through stamina, defense boosts and body presses, or just electro shot special attack boosts. Honestly, you really just need one special attack boost to get going there. But Archaludon is so bulky, and it can run so many different types of items. It's such a good user of terrestrialization. Anything to keep this thing on the field for an initial turn is going to make your opponent's life worse and worse the longer it stays out. So it's a great user of terrestrialization. Plenty of ways to mitigate those. Honestly, only 2 weaknesses with this many resistances is amazing. Maybe it doesn't even need to terrestrialize, but it has a great moveset. It has really good synergies available on the board. So speaking of those synergies, let's take a look at my second pick. Hey, it's Pelipper, Archaludon's best friend from Ladder. So Pelipper was 17 points. Quite a bit of points for the total base stats this thing is providing. But you know, stats aren't everything, right? Maybe for Archaludon, stats are everything. But for this thing, it's all about the ability, baby. Drizzle is such a good ability. I've never actually had a rain team in draft before. Or honestly, really any actual weather setter. I've used hail setters before, but hail's barely a weather. It's even less of a weather than snow is now. So with Pelipper on the team, I have a source of instant rain. And that obviously, you know, pairs really well with Archaludon's Electro Shot, giving me free 130 base power with a special attack boost. Yes, please. It might not be stab, but it doesn't need to be when you're boosting it every single time you're using it. Additionally, I hadn't actually looked at this before, but look at the perfect defensive synergy these two have. With just Pelipper and Archaludon, you have no net weaknesses, a bunch of net resistances. It's so good. And on top of that, Pelipper has a surprisingly wide move pool for just being a little Gen 3 shitter until it had its glow up in Gen 7. So it's got Wide Guard, it's got Tailwind, it's got Icy Wind, it's got Helping Hand, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's not even on this little thingy right here. So it provides a lot of value in one really small unassuming package. It can use a bunch of different items depending on if you want to run it more offensive, which is the typical spread, or you can, it has enough physical bulk to where if you want to run a physically defensive Pelipper, that's totally viable too, something like it kind of does in singles. But I think it just provides so much value for the team in just one move slot, or sorry, in just one team slot. And a lot of offensive power, given that all of its water attacks are most likely going to be boosted by rain. So, obviously a natural pair to Archaludon, and a great second mon, I think, to really form out the structure of this team right from the bat. And up next, we have Sinistcha, my boy, my favorite Pokemon from Gen 9. I love this thing. This is my MVP of whatever season I had this, 11, I think. And I've been waiting to draft it again, and I think this is the perfect team to have Archaludon, or to have Sinistcha on. Because, hey, it has Archaludon. And like I said, every turn Archaludon sits on the field is another turn that it gets harder to take care of, and it gets easier for me to sweep through the rest of your team. So what does Sinistcha do? Easy. We know what Sinistcha does. There's a whole season of videos of me using this thing on the channel. It comes on the field. It heals the ally for 25%, which is not nothing. It can use Life Dew to heal it for even more. It can use Rage Powder to redirect, Trick Room, and then obviously there's only one attack you need on this thing. It's Machagacha, the most overtuned move of all time. If it wasn't a grass type move, it would be absolutely busted. And it is even busted being a grass type move, so that just puts it into perspective of how good this mon is. It has great bulk, a good enough speed tier for Trick Room and outside of Trick Room, and just the synergy here, the defensive synergy, is so good with this team, and I think it's going to provide a lot of value in a way that it did last time when I used it, and I think I'm just so happy to have it on the team again. I love this mon. And for our next pick, we have kind of an unsuspected pick, one that I wasn't really looking at too much. I'd been thinking about it because this is one of the mons I used on my team back when I played Sun and Moon for the first time. I think this is a Sun and Moon one, right? Yeah, this Rabambi's Gen 7. I picked it up like late in the game, and it just was such a big benefit to the team because it's stupidly fast. 124 speed is the 97th percentile, so it's outspeeding mostly everything. And it can even use a choice scarf itself pretty well because it has a really good move pool again. Tailwind is obviously the big one, but it also has a good bit of damage mitigation moves. It has light screen and reflect. It can use U-turn, I guess, if you want to position, which is actually pretty useful on a team like this, where if I lead something like Archaludon or Rabombi, and then I see, oh, you're going to use some kind of mon that's going to set up the sun and try to stop my Electro Shot. Okay, I'll use a Scarf U-turn. After you use Sunny Day, doink ya, break your sash, flip out, go into Pelipper, set up the rain, and then blast you with Electro Shot, and it's GG's from there. The other thing that Rabombi has that not many Pokemon can say they have the access to is a little move called Pollen Puff, which, yeah, a lot of mons do get that, but I'm pretty sure Rabombi is the single best user of the move, since it's got a 95 special attack stat, and Pollen Puff is a really strong move. I think it's 90 base power, which is just as good as Bug Buzz is. So I can use Pollen Puff to deal big damage to you, or hey, I can click it into Archaludon and heal it for 50%. Crazy, right? I can also sit around, click Tailwind, and even just go for some Dazzling Gleam spread damage. Rabombi is a really good mon in general, and I think it's been kind of underutilized in draft, especially in Gen 7. Or not Gen 7, or Gen 9. So yeah, I think this mon's great. It's a really good pairing to the rest of the team. It provides a lot of utility that my team is sorely looking for. So up next, I was looking for a fire type. A fire type on a rain team, that's kind of crazy. So I was scouring, trying to find the fire type that worked best on rain. I was thinking Cinderace because it could turn itself into not a fire type, but ultimately I decided to go with Charizard because, hey, Charizard can actually take advantage of the rain and the sun equally well. Because if you set up rain, then fine, I'm hitting 100% accurate hurricanes, I'm using Weather Ball to get Water Stab off Charizard, which is crazy. But when obviously it comes to prep against me, say, oh, okay, I'll bring Sun into this guy so that all of his rain mons are sad. And then Solar Power activates, and I blow your team away with Heat Wave. So it's kind of it's actually, the more I think about it, a really good fit for this team. And it's a really powerful mon, one of the most powerful in the format after you factor in Sun Boost and Solar Power if I'm going that way. Or if I'm going it in Rain, not many things resist flying in this format, so it's dealing a lot of damage with Hurricane and picking up KOs left and right. It has a great speed tier. Unfortunately, it doesn't get Tailwind, which I thought it did, but I guess it doesn't. But, you know, not everything needs to have Tailwind. I've already got 2 Tailwind setters on the team. So Charizard fits in well as a potent attacker in or out of the rain. Up next, we're starting to fill out the slow mode of the team. We have Galarian Slowking, a mon that I've also wanted to use for a long time. A mon that I've used plenty on the singles ladder. It's such a good mon in singles, but it's really good in draft too. I played against it last season, and it was really hard to prep against because you go to Slowking, you open up Showdown and see, okay, what useful moves does this thing learn? As you can tell from this little chart on the right here, this thing learns fucking every move in the game. It has so many tools in its little toolbox there. It can use all of them pretty decently well too. So Slowking can set Trick Room, be a good Trick Room attacker, as it does have pretty high special attack. 85th percentile is nothing to sneeze at. It's got powerful stab moves and a huge array of coverage moves for whatever the week is. Basically run a poison move and then 2 other coverage moves in Trick Room, and you've got a Slowking set that'll work every single week. But you know, it doesn't just have to be that. I can use Chilly Reception to go into any ice types that could be on my team, mayhaps, to buff them up. Or I can also set Weather because Slowking learns every move of the game. Ultimately, it's just a good, strong Trick Room setter and attacker that can partner really well with Sinistcha in particular. Hey, there's that ice type I was talking about. We have Mamoswine on the team, and like I said earlier, this thing has the best offensive typing in the format. Incredible attack stat, 130 is 95th percentile. I can run... Oh, what's the ability this thing has? It has one of those abilities that makes it not be intimidated, but I don't know which one it is. But I can run that ability. I can also run Thick Fat if I... and not particularly worried about Intimidate week to week. Or I can even run Thick Fat if I want to do a special attack in Mamoswine. Set up Blizzard with Chilly Reception, or set up the Snow. I gave away the sauce. Set up the Snow, bring in Mamoswine, spam Blizzard. It could work, you never know. But yeah, Mamoswine's a really good mon. Just crazy amounts of power in one single mon. It can do spread damage with Pelipper using Earthquake, or it could just do Icicle Crash. Also provides a good source of priority with Ice Shard in, you know, matchups where I don't quite get the kill with the Electro Shot. I need to break that sash. Sinistra's dead. I can't use Machigashi for spread. Boink! Dink 'em with Ice Shard. They're dead. Up next, we have the obligatory Swift Swimmer of every rain team. was going to go for Basket Legion, but I was a little light on points, and I don't think I could fit it into the draft given how much I had spent on some of these other mons. But hey, Floatzel is the original Basket Legion, right? When this game first came out, it was the go-to Swift swimmer. You've got 105 attack. That's 70th percentile. That's above average. You got the rain. You got wave crash. You're dealing hella damage. And being 115 speed makes this honestly one of the best Swift swimmers because it's got a better speed tier than Basket Legion. It's not quite, what do you call, Barraskewda level, but Barraskewda doesn't get wave crash yet. So as long as Barraskewda doesn't have wave crash, I think Floatzel has a solid niche on any team that's looking to use the rain in any way. 85 special attack is actually pretty good. I didn't really notice that until now. It's definitely, I think it's just like barely above average, right? Yeah, 80% is average, so a usable special attack stat if I want to go that way, and a decent move pool too. I get some Icy Wind usage, I get Ice Spinner, which is also good, especially if I play any terrain teams. I don't remember if my division has any rain team or terrain teams, but if they do, then I can Ice Spin it away. But really, Floatzel's here to be the big dumb Swift Swim abuser, and you always got to prep against it matching up into my team because, you know, the beauty of Rain with Archaludon is that you don't just have to worry about water types. You have to worry about the big dragon type that can also blow through your team with electric moves and dragon moves. Or if you don't get it off the field fast enough, it blows you away with body press. So Floatzel adds another dimension of threat to my team that I think is really, really hard to get around considering how unbelievably fast and how how damn hard it is to stop the rain from going up against this team. Up next, we're rounding out our kind of slow mode with... Is that Munchlax? Yes, it is. The most valuable one-pointer mon on the format, which is astounding that nobody else picked this. 85 attack is solidly above average. To put this into perspective, I used Clodsire a lot last season for a mix of support and offense. This thing is stronger than Clodsire. It's slower than Clodsire. It's actually the slowest Pokemon in the game, so it's never getting underspent in Trick Room. It's bulkier than Clodsire, and Clodsire is never really using offensive items anyways. So with the Eviolite, this thing is out of the fucking universe levels of bulk. This thing is the second bulkiest thing in the format on the special side, which is second only to Blissey. Obviously, Eviolite chance is higher than that, but considering just fully evolved mons with no Eviolite shenanigans, this is only beaten by Blissey in terms of special bulk. And then physical bulk is 80th percentile. It's just so good, and it learns a good enough supporting move pool where it can get great things done in Trick Room, and then if it's not in Trick Room, okay, I'm going to click Fissure over and over and over and over and hope to get some hits because Munchlax can stay in the field for so unbelievably long. Why not just click Fissure? It'll be out for probably all 8 turns, so I can click it 8 times and hopefully get 1 or 2. So I think Munchlax was a really big value pick on the board, and I'm really glad that I was able to pick it up. Speaking of value picks, this is something I've been cooking up in the back of my brain for like multiple seasons now. I think Morpico is like the most beefy mon built into the shittiest package ever. So what's bad about Morpico? We'll start with that. We'll start with the obvious. Look at the stats. It's in the 10th percentile for effective base stat total because it's frail as shit, it's not that fast, and it's not that strong. Obviously 80th percentile is fast, but when you're comparing it to whatever the fastest thing on the other person's team is, this is never going to be number 1. Other depressing part about Morpico, it doesn't actually have an ability. Hunger Switch is a complete joke, so you're dealing with a mon with bad stats and no ability. Okay, so that's all the bad stuff out of the way, right? Let's talk about the goods. Electric Dark, great typing. But then you look at the move pool that Game Freak gave this thing, and you see why I'm talking about this mon. Morpico has like the same moveset as Incineroar. It's actually so good. You have all the same good support moves that Incineroar has, with the exception of Helping Hand, Roar, and Will-O-Wisp. Heat Wave is also kind of a support move, but Incineroar doesn't ever use it, so we'll just kind of scratch that one off. But when you compare the stuff that they have together, obviously they both have Fake Out, they have Parting Shot, they have Knockoff. But then let's look at the stuff that Morpico has that Incineroar doesn't. You have Eerie Impulse, a great check to special attackers. Electro Web, additional speed control. Fake Tears, support for your special attackers. Foul Play, maybe that's a bit on the borders of support moves, but it lets you invest fully into bulk and speed and still be able to deal damage to physical attackers. But hey, if you don't want to do that, you also have Super Fang to deal 50% clean to anything you want. Quash, not Sableye Quash, but you know, you're still pretty fast. You're 80th percentile, so you can slow things down and have your big dumb dragon maybe blow them away. You have Thunder Wave for paralysis and speed control, amazing. And you have Tickle for situational funsies. So I think Morpico is actually so good. I am going to bring it this season, and I'm going to get some use out of it, and I'm going to prove that it's better than Incineroar in Draft League. And for the last mon on the team, nothing controversial to say here. We have Vileplume, cute little Gen 1 mon, and it's here for 2 reasons. 1, it's cute. It's a good value for the pick, or good value for the points. It was only 4 points. Good special attack stat. What's this that I see down here? You got Weather Ball, you got Chlorophyll, you got a grass type that learns Sleep Powder. This thing is Venusaur light. So what Vileplume's going to do is going to provide insurance on weeks where my opponent tries to set Sun, and if they do set Sun for me, then they have to deal with a full-powered Charizard and a super speed Vileplume just putting everything to sleep and blowing them away with Heat Wave. Also brings up the option of, hey, what if I just run Sunny Day myself and leave Pelipper on the bench, or even bring Keen Eye Pelipper? I have the freedom to do that with how many possible options I have on this team. It's crazy. So Vileplume has an incredible support move pool on top of just being a good Chlorophyll attacker. It's got Strength Sap, which is a really good option. It has, what's it, Moonlight? I think it has Moonlight and Synthesis, so that if I want to go kind of a speedy support route, I can just heal up in the sun and stay alive forever. I'm pretty sure this gets Leech Seed. It gets Teeter Dance, which, if you were watching the VBL Happy 4th Birthday stream, which also, Happy 4th Birthday VBO, love you. It also gets Teeter Dance, which we've seen work before. So Vileplume has plenty of good options that it can use, and I think it's going to be a great cheap mon on my team that's going to end up feeling like it was worth a lot more than it was. So this is your season's Phoenix Suns. I'm really happy with how this team turned out. I didn't know where it was going to go once Ursaluna got picked, which I probably should have had a backup. Obviously, Ursaluna Blood Moon's going round 1, but you know, not Baxcalibur. Oops, that's cringe. Arcaludon was there for me when I needed it most, and I think these other 10 mons come around to build a perfect kind of rain mixed offense kind of team that I'm really looking forward to using. Ever since we finished the draft, I've started prepping in my head against my week 1 opponent, sorry Shadow, and even other people that I'm not going to be playing. So super excited to use this team. Happy to use all these mons. This is a team of Pokemon that I all like. There's nothing on this team that I kind of reluctantly drafted like last season with like Flareon. Flareon ended up sucking just as much as everyone has always said it does. So I was wrong there. But this team, so happy to use it. Can't wait to actually put it into action. So that's that. That's the draft for you. I'll see y'all in week 1. Later.